This is the Ask Faleskini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Faleskini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Faleskini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Faleskini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Faleskini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Faleskini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Faleskini.
Welcome to Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Jahmil Gloster from Peterborough, England. Jahmil helps burnout professionals overcome limitation by reigniting their passion and confidently attain a future driven by purpose in 90 days on his one-on-one Transformative Coach Program. Jahmil is a certified life coach committed to help individuals achieve their personal and professional goals. He helps if you are feeling stuck in your personal or professional life, lacking confidence or self-esteem, struggling with work-life balance, dealing with stress or anxiety. Jahmil, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Yes, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. So my story, well, I'll start off with a bit about my career, how this all came about. I started as an electronics technician, believe it or not. That's where I started. And how I ended up coming out of that industry is simply because I got bored, if I'm honest with you. I was the young, fresh lad who was out of college with the qualification, given all the low-end jobs to work on. So I wasn't really getting my teeth into things and being able to use my skills that I'd learned. So I got fed up. I left the organization that I was with the intention of staying in that trade. But I got a temporary, well, it was supposed to be a temporary role in direct sales. And as it turned out, I discovered I had a bit of a talent in that. And then my income level went through the roof. So because of that, I ended up staying in sales for a number of years. I dipped out of it a few times because when I first started, I had a strong start. But then I had a few dips, which was new to me, being a freshman in sales. But being the type of person I am, I'm quite a determined individual to really do well at something. So I intended to go back into sales and develop a career in it. Mm-hmm. Now, as it turned out, I became a very high performer within sales. So I ended up in that industry for about, I think it's maybe about 20 years. Now, the reason why I came out of it is simply because as much as I thoroughly enjoyed taking a healthy income home every week, I got to a point where I needed some more substance in what I was doing. I loved the money. I still love money. I'm not going to deny that, but I needed something more. And because my focus kind of shifted from money to wanting something that had more depth, it was time for me to come out of the industry, because you can't survive in sales unless you're a very money focused person. So I lost that focus. When I came out of sales, what I knew I wanted to do was go into training. And that is simply because throughout my sales industry, I'd been training people and throughout the sales industry, I was training salespeople and I was doing quite well at that. So I then took up a role as an employment consultant. And this is where everything all started for me, because in that position, I found that I was giving back. I was really helping people move forward into not only into employment, but what I found was I was one of the few colleagues who was very focused on dealing with the individual, working with them inside out. Yes, my primary purpose of being in that job role was to move people into employment, but I was always questioning, why was somebody out of work for so long?
Mm-hmm.
Had to be something more. It couldn't be just the fact that they just couldn't get a job. There had to be something more. And quite often it was often because of self-confidence. They'd been out of work for so long, so there was a lack of self-confidence, a lack of confidence in themselves. What skills they had initially, they had forgotten all about, so then started to think that they didn't have any skills, didn't have any qualities that employers would want. So what I started doing off my own back was started doing training sessions in the organizations. And over the time scale that people were working with me, you could see a huge difference in their level of confidence. And that was very noticeable by all of my colleagues in that as well. So obviously I gained a massive interest in working with people inside out. From there, I moved into adult education, and then I've been doing that now for, gosh, I still do it now. I work as a freelance tutor, but I was working as a trainer for an organization for several years, became redundant because the company ended up closing down, not through my fault, may I add. But being an individual that likes a bit of freedom, I don't like to be too restricted on things, and I didn't agree with a lot of the rules and guidelines that I had to abide by all the time. I decided I was going to go into freelance, and I feel quite blessed because in the time that I have been freelancing, I've never been short of work, so I feel quite lucky in that way. But throughout my whole career, what I always seem to be doing is focusing on developing the individual. Not, of course, when I'm delivering a session, I'll focus on the skills, but I'm more focused on the person, the individual, working with them inside out and giving them a lift and inspiring them. And that seems to come more natural for me. But one thing that I experienced when I was working as a trainer for the organization, which I won't mention at that time, I experienced burnout, and it wasn't a good thing to experience at all. What had happened, how this came about, is paperwork. I'm not very good at it because I'm more of a creative individual. If you put me in front of people, I'm quite happy delivering, but when it comes to doing paperwork, that's an uphill struggle for me. Creatives don't tend to be super great at paperwork. So I found myself in a role which I really thoroughly enjoyed. It meant a lot to me because I was helping move people forward, but I was up against it with regards to paperwork, and I was being put on a performance plan. So that was stressing me out. Also, at the same time, my daughter was living with me, bless her heart. And it was a very toxic environment, all I can say, because she was a bit of a nightmare at the time. So it got to a point where I didn't even want to go home to my own house. So what I found was my body was under stress 24/7. And because I was so behind on paperwork, I was going in mega early in the morning to get paperwork done, and I was leaving the office late at night. So I was the first person in probably two or 3 hours before everyone started, and I was the last person that left maybe 3, 4, 5 hours after everyone left. So I would leave work at about 9, 10 o'clock sometimes, when our finish time was 5. So, but that certainly showed my dedication to the job. Yeah. But I was just overworking myself. And on top of that, my body was under stress 24/7. So what happened after some time is when my daughter left home after some time, and I ended up getting all the paperwork out of the way, and I caught up with myself in the training role that I was in. But what happened is all of my dreadlocks, I used to have dreadlocks all the way down to pretty much to my bum, nice, healthy, thick dreadlocks. Over 2 months, the whole lot of them fell out, every single one of them. And on top of that, my skin on my hands, they became so scaly and dry. It was, I don't generally get embarrassed easily, but that was a very embarrassing situation for me. I didn't want to show myself, so I became more withdrawn. I was gaunt in the face, lost a lot of weight, ended up having alopecia. I suffered from that quite badly. Where I'm at now is this hair that I've got. This has taken probably maybe about 6 years to get to this length. And in all honesty, this length before burnout, it would probably take me about a year for it to grow to this length. So I would say that my body's still repairing even from then, and it's crazy. So anyway, with regards, going back to the training, I'm still doing freelance training now. I do that in the daytime, but in the evenings or any other time that I can, I do the coaching, and my aim is to focus on that full time. So I'm in the transitional period at the moment, but my target audience is obviously burnt out people.
Yeah, very well. I have a personal experience with burnout. For me, it was a bit different. I didn't have much hair to start with, so this was not the indication for me. I just gained a lot of weight, and I was tired, and I was not productive, and I find it really hard to find motivation.
Yeah.
And it was all about motivation, what to do next, and so on. I had really, let's say, I was fortunate that I could do on my own terms or work on my own terms. However, I didn't find any challenge anymore. It was so the whole challenge was just having a bigger house and a bigger car, and that was it. So that you explained about debt previously, and that was for sure not everything was really shallow. And I said, okay, that's not how I want to spend my life. Then I needed a lot of time just to stress out. I moved to family farm, said, okay, I'm going out of the high stress environment of the city. Moving to family farm, said, okay, then I needed about a year. And then I started with a strict diet and exercise regime. That helped me a lot. And after 3 years, I'm still on this diet. It's almost something between keto and low carb diet.
Right.
And I'm switching between keto and low carb, depending on time of the year. And I do a lot of exercise now. Basically, every day I go for at least an hour walk. And this is how it helped me. And somehow, even if they said that the change comes from inside out, in my case, the food and the exercise triggered the change. And I also believe that I had a good depression that I didn't even notice that when I look back, see that I have. So when I saw that you're treating people with burnout, I said, okay, that is something I would really need when I started. And the first question would be for me, because you're an expert, how would you explain to business people when could they sense that they are moving towards burnout, or that they are already in deep in burnout? What are the indications? What are the typical things that you notice with people that are on the way to burnout or are already burned out?
So, well, there's a number of signs, and I believe that when someone becomes burnout, there's a combination of things that are likely to happen, because a lot of the signs pretty much everyone experiences. So this could be exhaustion, it could be lack of sleep, headaches, stomach aches, all of those types of things. They're common signs of someone that's going to have burnout. But I think that when someone actually gets to that point when it's really going to affect them, it's going to be a number of combination of things that are consistently happening. And it could be that they're becoming, there's a lack of motivation, losing interest in what they're actually doing. And these are clear signs, but I think it's if it's happening on a frequent basis, because these are all signs that a lot of people in work environments experience anyhow, and there may be the one or two of them off. But when there's a combination of them that are happening day to day to day to day, when we take my example, where with regard to losing hair, we all lose hair. We're always losing hair all the time. So me losing, when I said earlier that I lost them over 2 months, well, actually, I did see dreadlocks fall out here and there. But it didn't stress me out because it was nothing that I was, it didn't come as a surprise to me because I've been experiencing that anyway. We all lose hair. But the thing is they all started to fall out at quite a rapid rate in a very short period of time. And then that was a cause for concern. But on top of that, I wasn't sleeping properly. Additionally, I wasn't eating properly. I was also withdrawn with everyone else. There was a lack of motivation in the work that I was doing. Although I was really pushing myself to actually make sure that I was getting everything done, I was demotivated. Yeah. So these signs, if people are seeing them as a consistent thing that's happening to them, then it's a pretty good chance that they're heading towards burnout.
Did you experience aha moment that you said, aha, I have a burnout? Is that something that you experienced?
Yeah, but it was too late. it was too late. And the clear sign for me, I have to go back to my hair because it was my signature. When there was clumps of them that were falling out, then it was like, whoa, what's something's not right here, because I was finding them not just around the home but also around the office. And at that point I was catching the bus to work as well. And when I would get onto the bus, when we'd get to the stop, as I was getting up and coming off the bus, I would see my dreadlocks along the aisle on the way down. So experience it, because that was not normal. So there was a bit of a telltale sign for me there. I can't say that I really identified it at that time. I think the time when I really identified it was probably when my skin started to break out. It became very dry and very scaly. That was when the time when I think that was probably the aha moment just there. Because as far as my hair falling out, I put it to dyeing my hair. I think that's what I thought, but it wasn't.
Okay, so when you had the aha moment, did you start doing something about it right away, or you just start denying first? Or
I didn't.
How did it? Because I know for me it was years of denying before I finally said, okay, I have to do something with myself. It's okay. I'm just 20 kilos overweight. That is nothing. It's okay because I'm strong. I have strong bones. Blah blah blah. I did a lot of weightlifting. I said, okay, I'm full of muscles. Blah blah. So bullshit like that. Would you agree that denying is the first phase of burnout as well?
100%. 100%. I was probably in denial of it for several months. Several months. And then I had to submit to the fact that it was burnout, because it wasn't going anywhere. It was just getting worse and worse. I wasn't improving. So yeah, I was denying it. And I think that's possibly the stage that everybody who goes through burnout will go through as well. Particularly if you're someone who has a habit of being more of a self-healer, not running off to the doctors or anything like that. And I'm guilty of that. If ever I'm ill, I'm the last person to go to the doctors. So yeah, denial, definitely. And that could go on for several months. And then, yeah, you have to own up and give in.
Okay. And when you own it, Where did you start first? Was there a food, exercise? Was there a coach or a helper? You said that you were more self-healer. Did you consider getting third-party help at that moment? And how important is to change your work environment?
So for me, I changed my eating habit. That's for sure. I started to eat more healthily and train more often. So I do more regular exercises now, and have done since then, actually, to be fair. But eating regularly has been one of the key things for me. Eating healthy meals, because I think at the time I was eating lots of, not takeout, but a lot of processed foods. Yeah. So now I eat more wholesome, healthy foods now. What else is there? And a lot of internal management. So a lot of not letting things get to me. Yeah. We all experience stress. We all have really tight deadlines to meet from time to time. And I choose not to let any of that affect me. Now, if I see something, if I realize I'm in a situation that it is what it is, I can't deal with it, it's tough, then I'm not going to let it affect me, just let it be. And, if it means that I've got to be vocal to, I don't know, someone to tell them that I can't meet this deadline, they're going to have to wait a little bit longer, then it is what it is, because health comes first,
Okay. How about changing a career? You said that you recently changed a career. Was that after burnout? Do you think that for burnout it's better to have a stability and stable job, or it's better to change and do something else, get a different meaning, get new challenge? What would you say it's a better strategy to get out of burnout?
That's a good question. I think in most cases, probably people would want to change profession, because that would have left, having experience in burnout in a certain industry or within a certain type of a role, it may leave quite a bad taste in your mouth to want to actually continue fulfilling a career in that role. But I think it is still possible. I think it's down to the individual, if I'm honest with you. But I think that there's a higher possibility that most people that experience burnout will want to actually leave and change and do something else completely different, and leave that experience behind.
Would you say that burnout is a stigma in our environment right now, or is the thing improving? Like it's because you're burned out, you're a failure. Is that, might be that it's still a stigma in our environment?
I think it is. Yeah, I do think it is. Just the same as like mental health. Mental health is more open now. People are acknowledging it more. But I even think there's still a bit of a stigma with that. There's still people that think, because you can't see it. If you can't see mental health a lot of times. So I think that there's still a bit of a stigma with that. And I think it's pretty much the same also with burnout. There's in the UK, we have something like, what is it? There's 46% of people that are close to burnout. This is according to, I think it's the World Health Organization. And at least 79% of people have experienced it. So those percentages are really high. I believe them to be very, very, very high. And yet, still, even though those statistics are there and organizations are likely to be aware of them, are they doing enough to address it? Probably not, because deadlines to complete tasks are still getting shorter and shorter, and the amount of tasks to complete within that deadline are still increasing. So it's no wonder people are experiencing burnout. But I think there is still a bit of a stigma with it, yes.
Okay. In the factories, companies are responsible for well-being of their labor, the employees, and they need to watch out that machines are let's say, human friendly, that they have a button where you can turn it off if something goes wrong. Do you think companies should be more responsible when dealing with burnouts? Should there be a system in place that would indicate a potential burnout and would then steer a person to go on a different route, maybe have a coach for burnout, maybe get a medical examination? Do you think that would be a good idea?
I think so. I think a lot of industries should take advantage of having a coach, if not internally, someone whose prime role is just to coach the staff, or just hiring someone on a regular basis just to touch base with everyone. Because I think, particularly with more of the old school companies, I think that well-being is something that they've forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, business is business at the end of the day. I understand that they've still got to make money, but got to look after the people. If people are not in the right state of mind, if people are not feeling well within themselves, then they're clearly not going to perform as well within the job role, which in turn will have an impact on the results or targets or deadlines that need to be met. So I do think that more organizations should do more with regards to well-being.
Okay. Regarding burnouts, could burnout be a reason for early retirement?
Possibly. Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Oh, my speaker's run out. Yeah, I think so, because if I think there's more people that would be willing to work. Mm-hmm. If I'm honest with you, I think there's plenty of people that be willing to work, but they just can't be dealing with the stresses that a lot of companies organizations are putting on people. So take the early retirement, and I think you're right with that. Yeah.
Okay. Since you're a burnout coach, let's say that one of our colleagues is getting signs of burnout, and he gets in contact with you. How do you start your session with him or her?
Okay, so the first session that I do, it's a 45-minute free discovery session. So we chat and just have a discussion to find out what their challenges are, what their aims are, and obviously, of course, how I can help and see if we're a good fit for each other. But in that session as well, we'd also do some physiology exercises just to change their state. So there could be some breathing exercises and so on. And these are takeaways that they can use in their own time if they feel that actually they're feeling a bit tense, feeling a bit anxious, feeling a bit stressed out. Then there's a few exercises they can do in that moment to change their state. But I would never say that my program is anything all magical or anything like that, because I think that all coaches do similar things, to be fair. So of course we'll be focusing on what their aims are, specifically what they want to get from the coaching program, set some goals, do action plans, and have regular meetings, and hold them accountable as well to make sure they're actually doing everything that they say want to do. But draw the information out of them, because most of the times we've got the answers ourselves. It's just that we might not be having anybody asking us the questions that need to be asked for us to discover what the answers are. Okay.
Would you say when getting out of the burnout, is motivation more important than discipline?
To get out of it?
Yes.
Yeah, good question. I think motivation is. Yeah, I think initially you need to be motivated, and then I think the discipline is what follows on. I think you need to want to actually get better. So that's where the motivation would probably be the primary thing to start off with, and then the discipline would follow in. If we develop that habit, then that will show the discipline there.
Okay. Another question. When they started talking about burnout a couple decades ago, they made a lot of neuro experiments, and they started defining burnout as something that happens to people that live on adrenaline rush. Would you say that that is correct, or are there many other reasons? Because people that tend to be ambitious, that tend to have a bit bigger goals, they live more on adrenaline, they need more adrenaline rush, and they tend to experience burnout at least sooner, if not the earlier.
I think there's a pretty good chance of that, but I would never say that it rules out anyone that is not highly ambitious. Certainly not. I think it's something that in fact, I know it's something that everyone could experience, at what level of ambition they have. But I think that yes, for those that are more determined, tend to be very highly ambitious because they're always pushing themselves. They're possibly closer to having burnout if they don't manage themselves properly. Yeah.
Okay. Would you say that there's a food supplement that you would recommend for people that are experiencing burnout?
Well, I would never say I'm a nutritionist at all. That's not my speciality.
No, just out of the blue. What helped you?
Eating healthy, real foods, healthy foods, making sure that we're having the vegetables, none of the processed foods. As long as, of course, we're all going to eat the processed stuff every now and then. We're all going to eat the fast foods every now and then. That's just way of life now. But I think the important thing is to make sure that we've got a good balance on what our intake is, so that we are getting the right nutrition from the good healthy foods, having all the beans and the vegetables and all of that, I think that's what's important, just managing your meals properly, just being aware of what your intake is.
How would you say, yoga and Pilates, would that be a positive influence on a way out of burnout?
Yeah, if it's something that stimulates you, if that's an type of exercise that stimulates you, I think so, yes, because with those exercises, in fact, with a lot of exercises, you have to focus on breathing, I always say that focused breathing is the number one technique above anything, I truly believe, to really get yourself more centered. If you sing, you have to focus on breathing. If you do yoga, you have to focus on breathing. If you do martial arts, you have to focus on breathing. Everything involves all of these exercises, and certain arts require you to be focused on breathing. If you have anxiety, first thing people tell you, focus on breathing. So I think, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this interview? Any quick tips of the trade, or any trade secrets that you can disclose?
I would say just to be aware, it's easy for us to believe that if we're going through a period and we're feeling a little bit exhausted and we're feeling stressed out and we're lacking sleep and motivation, it's easy to think that we can get through it. I think that's quite a common type of thought process that a lot of us go through. And yes, might be able to from time to time, but if we see that these are happening on a frequent basis, then it's a cause for concern. And that would be a time to, if we see that happening, that would be a time to actually seek support, and start looking at possible changes that can be made, changing diets, making sure that they're getting the right type of exercise, practicing mindfulness, identifying how they're feeling in that moment in time, to prevent the possibility of burnout occurring, because if it's not addressed quick enough, then it could creep up on them very, very quickly without them realizing it.
Mm-hmm. I will put links to your LinkedIn and other pages where you can be reached in the description below. And thank you very much for being my guest tonight.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faleskini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleskini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleskini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleskini or listen to the Ask Faleskini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.